Hey guys, welcome to my segment called A Word with Authors. My name is Tracy Sanders. I'm an author of 10 titles on Amazon. I write parenting books, nonfiction books for authors, romance novels, and children's books. Today, I am speaking with a special guest, Sharon K. Connell. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And Sharon writes Christian fiction, and it actually has a little bit of romance to it, some suspense. I think it has a myriad of wonderful things in this book. I've read it. It's a great book. I actually edited this book as well. So I was happy to be able to bring her on and speak to her today about this book and her upcoming book. So Sharon, can you tell us a little bit about your book called His Perfect Love, right?
His Perfect Love was written about one of the girls from my earlier books, and she was not a nice girl, and she just wouldn't leave me alone. Her name and her picture in my mind kept popping up, and she didn't want to remain a bad girl. She wanted me to do something with her, so I had to write a new story all about her. And it's not a series. You don't have to read the earlier books to understand Patricia. I explained a little bit about her, and she's afraid. She has a lot of fears. She has a lot of insecurities, and those are dealt with in the story. And it has some mystery to it. It has a lot of suspense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a journey about where Patricia is going in life.
Yeah, this is actually one of the first Christian suspense books that I've read that actually had real suspense to it. I was shocked all the way up until the end to find out, who the bad guy was. It's not who I thought it was. So I really enjoyed this book. Now, have you found that writing Christian fiction has been a challenge to be able to market, or do you think there's a good size market out there for it right now that's been untapped?
I think that it is somewhat of a challenge because there's such a big market for everything else. And people, unless they're looking for something that's devotional or that's inspiring, they don't pick up Christian fiction. But I'm hoping that with my stories that might make a change in it. I have read some others that are really exciting and not just your typical, he loves her and she loves him and that kind of thing, or just plain detective. I like to add a mix in mine.
Well, that's very cool that you learned how to walk that fine line, because I'm sure it's challenging to do, because I've written several books, and I've read several Christian fiction books, but some of them were a little watered down, and they weren't quite as exciting as I would like them to have been. And I think a lot of people maybe are afraid to read Christian fiction because they're afraid they might be preached to somehow, or even if they are Christians, some people just don't like being preached to and
Right.
pounded on. And I think maybe that's why they don't try it. So I really hope that after this interview, they see that it can be different and that it can be fun and exciting. And I had just as much fun reading that as I would a romance novel. There is just a little bit of hint of sexual content in it, but it does not mention much about it. And it definitely does not go into detail. So that kept right along with the genre, I believe.
Yes, I think I don't think that's an important part of a story. I don't think it needs to be there. I think that your imagination will take over if you start to mention certain actions by people. You don't have to have the details laid out for you. And I like to know that my stories are going to bring people, not preach. I don't want to preach to them. I just want to show them that God does love them. And regardless of what happens in your life, he's there for you when you turn to him.
Right. And I definitely got that message from the book. Like I said, even though it wasn't slathered all over me, it was a good underlying tone to it. And I appreciated that. Now, who are your influences as far as traditional authors and self-published authors that have influenced your writing?
Well, I think you're probably tired of hearing this, that J.R.R. Tolkien is my favorite author of all. His books just, they're so exciting and interesting. I couldn't put it down. The first time I didn't read The Hobbit until I was an adult. I was reading it to my daughter. I couldn't put it down. So I would read it to her at night. And then after she went to sleep, I kept reading. So I read it through 2 times in the same sitting. And it just inspired me that, this is what it's like to be a really exciting author. But I also like Jane Austen. I mean, her books made me want to write like she does, like, to have the excitement in the book and the love, the romance in it. And I guess the one who really got me going, though, was Hill, and I can't think of her first name. She has a site on Facebook. I can't think of her first name, but she's an old writer. She's passed on now. She wrote hundreds of books. Grace Livingston Hill. I read every book I could get of hers because they were just pure romance, and yet they had that excitement in them about what's going to happen. Is this woman going to be okay? Mm-hmm. And I kept asking myself that, and I kept reading. I couldn't put them down. So those are the 3 authors that have influenced me. And since I started writing, almost every author I come across, almost every reader I come across influences me with what they say, what they tell me.
That's a great way to put it, actually. I've never thought about it that way. But yeah, every book that we read, because most authors are avid readers, at least to begin with, and later on we don't have as much time to read as we would like to. But you're right. We do analyze the books when we read them after we've become, authors and published our own books and learned the tricks of writing and things like that. So we do. We analyze them and figure out what we could write, how we could write like that, or possibly stay away from writing like that, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. Some books I've read, and I don't put a book down just because I think, this isn't my type of book. When I start reading a book, I read it to the end, because I've been surprised at the end of a book. Because there was maybe the beginning of it didn't get off the way I would have written it, but the ending was good. Or vice versa. I just read it. If I didn't like the story, at least I learned something from it.
Well, that's good. Not a lot of people would continue with reading a book that they aren't interested in, or, they lose interest in. A lot of people these days just want a quick read. They just want a quick story, and they want to get straight to the point. And I don't always agree with that, and I don't always write my books like that. So I think it's good to have a mixture of reading styles like that and writing styles to choose from. Now, you have another contribution to the author community called the War Group, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's how we met, actually.
We actually met through that, right? We met through the...
Yes.
Okay.
I started the group forum on Facebook because I wanted to get in touch with people who didn't want a bunch of garbage on their Facebook forum. They didn't want arguing. They didn't want things they didn't want to see on the forum. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And it has blossomed. And that's a lot of it has to do with the people that have come onto the forum, like you, and that have contributed to it and kept it the way it is. And I appreciate, that it's for every age. We have a lot of young people there, and we don't want to be a bad influence to the young people. We have writers and we have readers, and that's basically who it's for. It's for writers, authors, and readers, and that's the actual name of it: writers and authors, ... and readers. And they're all important. And I just love my forum. I love all the people on it.
You know what I love most about the group, I think, is that, on Mondays we offer promotion day. Uh-huh. But not a lot of people post their stuff on Mondays. They post it, throughout the week, and then you leave it open for the rest of the time too, for any day of the week that they can promote their stuff, as long as they don't abuse it. And
Not
I
everybody can
found
do
that,
that just on Monday.
right. And I found that people don't abuse that. Have you noticed
Well,
that they do?
that's part of the rules, you know, don't
Mhm.
abuse it. Don't be a spammer. You're welcome to post. You're welcome to post anything you want to as long as you follow the rules. I don't agree with every post that's on there. You know, I have my own ideas of what's right and wrong, and you know, my own faith. And but people are welcome to do that as long as they follow the rules.
Well, that's very good. I think leaving it open, it's sort of like, teaching your child how to use stairs. If stairs are going to be in your home, you need to teach them how to use them, not forbid them from going to the stairs.
Right.
I think that's the same principle that comes into play there. Now, as far as social media, which is something that we all authors must deal with on a daily basis, what's your favorite platform to use? And do you have any inside tips that you'd like to share about that?
Well, I think my favorite platform is Facebook, because I can post in other forums. I can reach other people. I can do various things with Facebook. I like Twitter. I do a lot of advertising on Twitter in the form of a tweet, but it's not as user-friendly as Facebook is. And then I have my newsletter that I put out once a month. So I put more specific things in my newsletter. And of course, it's longer.
Yeah, your newsletter is very informative. I do enjoy getting that every month.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I'm sorry?
I'm glad to hear that, especially from an editor.
Well, editors are not perfect. I kind of like to get that message out there to everybody. We
I
miss
know that.
even the smallest things, But I was actually excited to hear about your rating that you shared on Facebook the other day about His Perfect Love. The assessment that you had done for it. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Well, that was a contest that I entered, and I didn't enter it with the idea that, okay, this is the book that's going to win first place. I just entered it to enter it, and they had mentioned that they would, when they had the judges read the books, there were everyone got 3 judges to read their books. They would be sending us a critique on the book. Mm-hmm. And so I got 3 critiques. One was right up at the top. The other one was in the middle, and the other one was pretty critical. I thought it was pretty critical. But, like I said on the forum, it just proves to me that every reader has their own idea of what a good book is. Every reader has their own idea of what they like in books, what they like in a story, what they like in a book cover. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't like the run-of-the-mill book covers. I want mine to stand out. I want it to mean something, and that's why with His Perfect Love, I chose a symbol from the book. And I did it so that the people would be wondering, okay, why is this aigrette on the cover? And be looking for it. Because a lot of times I've read a book and at the end of the book, I thought, well, okay, I remember seeing that. But I don't recall everything that was said about it, the symbol.
Right.
So I wanted it right up in front in their face.
That's interesting because when I was reading your book, I did wonder the same thing about your cover. I was like, what does this bird have to do with this story? And it does come together at the end. If I remember correctly, that's where it is, right? Toward the end?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But the kids.
The aigrette shows up through the whole story. It's just that it keeps popping up.
Right.
And there's no real explanation of, why it's there. But I thought I had read, when I was reading about writing, one of the things I read about was bookends for a story. You start out with something and you end with something. And I thought, well, what better place for a bookend than that right on the cover? Start off with that and then end up with
Yeah, that's definitely interesting and unique. It helps people remember your book covers and keep it in mind. So before we go, why don't you tell us a little bit about how we can reach you? What's the best way to find you if you want to learn more about your books, or if you have a blog, how we find your newsletter, that sort of thing?
Well, you can look for my book. on Amazon, and I'm an indie author, so you won't find it in the bookstore, but you can go to the service desk and you can order it as a print on demand. I found that out last year, that Barnes and Nobles, whatever other bookstores, you can order it as print on demand. If you go to my website, which is http:// Sharon K. Connell, all strung together, SharonKConnell.com / all my links are there on my website.
That's probably a good central location people can visit to find out more about you.
Yes, and you can sign up for my newsletter there.
Right, which I did. I urge you guys to do that. She does give some great information in there. Now, before we go, one last thing. I always ask my visiting authors, what is one piece of advice that you would offer to any aspiring author or anyone who may be struggling in the industry right now?
To quote a phrase that we've all heard all our lives, don't let the turkeys get you down. When you're given a criticism, don't take it to heart. If you feel that maybe it's true, then use it. If you don't think it's a true criticism, forget it. Somewhere down the road, you may find out that you need to change something, but the most important thing for a new author to do, or a new writer, is to write. Get your story down, whatever it is, whether it's your own life story or fantasy or whatever you're writing. Just get it down on paper. Then go back and read it. Change what you don't like. And another important thing is to make sure you find out how to write. You can start writing without learning how to write. That's what I did. That's why I'm going back and I'm rewriting my first 3 novels, because people like the stories, but I know I didn't do a good job writing because I didn't know how to be an author. So I took classes online, and I've great places, Iowa Learning. They offer free classes. You don't even have to be able to afford classes. You can go online. I'm on a fixed income, so I have to be careful of that. But I learned a whole lot from them. And then talk to other authors, talk to editors. And they're not all going to see eye to eye with you. By the way, Tracy's a great editor. She understands my writing. Not all editors do. You have to find your own editor, the one that can help you along without changing the way you write.
Right.
And there's so many tips. I could keep going on.
Yeah.
But basically, read my newsletter. There's tips every month.
Yeah, there are some great tips in there.
Read Tracy's books.
I agree with you about the editor thing. I actually had someone submit a story to me yesterday, and I looked over it. I did the 1-page sample edit, and after I read it, I wanted to find out what genre it was and how gruesome it got in the story, because I don't edit stories like that. I don't read them, therefore I can't offer anything of value to enhance that story. And so we parted ways. He was very, very cordial about it, very nice. But sometimes you're right. You have to find the right editor, and they have to understand your work and your writing style and your personality. I think your personality comes through in your stories. So, well, thank you very much, Sharon, for coming and hanging out with me today. And you guys are going to be able to find Sharon's interview on my A Word with Tracy blog. That's awordwithtracy.com. I'll also share it on my YouTube channel. So be looking for that. We will see you next time with A Word with Authors.
Thank you, Tracy.